Hello my lovelies, welcome back to my channel. This is your girl Angel from Simply Angel Tia. In this video I'm gonna show you guys how to crochet this poncho here. The intro is a little bit different than my normal intros. Why? Because this poncho is too big for me to show you guys everything on the work table, so I decided to just put it on my bed and show you guys how it looks. That way you can see the complete work before you decide to do it or not. But this is something that's gonna take a while, especially if you're a beginner. Make sure you're paying attention to the instructions of the video and make sure you're following very closely. But you pretty much gonna just need to know how to do the first couple of rows, and after that you just keep repeating the same thing. But this is a very beautiful pattern, I think, and the colors can definitely change depending on when you want to make this. Maybe you want to make it for the summer. Well, maybe not the summer per se, because you don't want to wear poncho in the summer, but maybe you want to make it as a winter poncho, or other seasons that you wear ponchos in, and you want to change the colors based on that, you absolutely can. I chose these three colors because I wanted to do something that has fall colors, and so this is why we're working with these colors in this video. Okay, so let's not talk too much because we need time to get started with this, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, my lovelies, so before we go ahead and get started, I'm going to show you all the materials that I'm using for this project. And as you can see, I have my three colors that I'm going to be using for my poncho here. I've talked about these colors before, and this as well, because I've used this yarn before. But as you can see, this is obviously a different brand than these two, but I'm going to quickly talk about them just so you know what I'm using. So this Azurite brand, I have this color and this color here. It's 100% acrylic. It's a lightweight number 3. I will call it red or maroonish, but the color plot is, or the color is 3025. And for this one here, it's exactly the same, and the color is 3006 or 3006. Okay. This yarn here is from Hobby We Heart Yarn. It's also 100% acrylic. And this here, the color is 39. And the recommended hook for this particular yarn for crochet is 4 to 5 millimeter crochet hook, or US G6 to H8. Okay. Now, and for these two here, recommended hook size is 3.5 to 4. So with that said, I'm gonna jump right into the crochet hook size that I'm gonna be using. I'm gonna be using 4.25 millimeter crochet hook, which is a G6 US, and I'm gonna refer to this as yellow, this as red, and of course this as orange. Okay, so this is what we're using. I have my scissors as well as about a stitch marker or two just to hang around in case we need it. Okay, alors, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, my lovelies, so with this poncho, I'm gonna go ahead and start the project with this red maroonish color. And as you guys know, I showed you the orange and the yellow as well, so I'm going to actually do them in that exact order, where it's the red, the orange, and the yellow to finish off the shawl. So which means the red is the top of our shawl, of our poncho. Okay, alors, let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna start by doing a slip knot here so we can do our foundation chain, just like that. And I'm gonna make this poncho here to be more on a medium large size, just so you guys have an idea of how we do the different sizes. Because I always do small or medium, which is my size, but I'm gonna do a large, which is I will still be wearing it, but at least with a large, you'll be able to see how it fits on me versus how a small or medium fits on me. Okay, now I'm gonna do a chain of 102. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, my lovelies, so this is my chain of 102. Okay, so as you can see, it is an even number. Okay, so we have 51 on one side and 51 on one side to make our 102. Now, when you do this type of I guess projects, especially something like a poncho, you want to do equal number of stitches on each side, because it's going to make your work very straight and very even on the back side and the front side. So this is why we make sure we do an even number of stitches. Okay, now with that said, I'm going to hold my crochet or my chain very straight, so that the flat side is facing me and the lumpy side is kind of on the other side of me. And I'm just going to keep moving it very nice and straight like this. And I'm going to go ahead and then turn it like this when I get to the end, so that I'm holding it like this with the tail hanging like that. And I'm going to go into the back of that first stitch here, and I'm going to bring the tail underneath like this, and I'm going to go ahead and do a slip stitch right here like that. So now I've just made my work very flat. I put it very flat down, but I've made it so that it's one loop instead of it being a long chain. Okay, now that I've completed that, you have two options. You can either count from here where we have this stitch, you can count until you get to 50, and on the 51 you put a stitch marker. You put a stitch marker like this. Or how I like to work with it is, because right now I don't want to count to that. The other way you would have done it is to count number 1 chains to 51, and in the 51 you put a stitch marker and then continue to create the other 51 chains. But all of that, I don't do it like that, but this is the options. I'm telling you the options of what you have. I do it the same, and then what I do here is I do a chain of 2, which counts as a double crochet, and then in that same stitch here I'm going to do 4 double crochets. So that's 2. I will do a chain of 2 in between and then do 2 more double crochets. Okay, so just like this, like that, and like this, and this creates the first corner of our poncho. And then I'm going to make sure I kind of move this around to loosen this stitch that is in between this and the next, because we put so many stitches in one, it made the next stitch a little bit tight. So we're going to make sure we pull it out of its place so we can work into it next. So my next stitch is going to be working into that stitch here. And it's important that you work into it, because otherwise you will have less stitches on one side if you don't work on this very first stitch that is kind of pinched in. Okay, there you go. And I'm working in the back loop of my stitches here. And then we're going to continue to do our double crochets in the back of our foundation chain. And right now we're going to make sure we do 50 stitches all together, 51 with where we have our corner. Okay, so go ahead and do this. Just work your double crochets in the back of your foundation chain like this. When you get to 50 stitches all together here, minus the corner, come back and I will show you how to create the other corner, and then we'll finish the other side as well. Okay, if you did put a stitch marker on the 51 stitch, then that's the 51 stitch is where you will do your corner, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets into the exact same stitch, and then continue. But if you want to know how I do that, please come back when you have done your 50 stitches minus the corner here. Okay, see you guys in a bit. Okay, my lovelies, so I have done 50 stitches here and 51 including the one where I do my corner, where I did my corner. So now it's time for me to do the next corner here. So for the next stitch here, I'm just going to go right into it again, going in the back loop of the chain, and do a double crochet, do another second double crochet into the same stitch, chain 2, then go right into the same stitch and do 2 more double crochets. So this is us creating a corner here, which is one corner of the poncho. Okay, and now that I have that, the same thing as we did on the other side, we're going to make sure we go into this very next stitch here that kind of got disappeared a little bit, is pinched in. We're going to just use our hook to try and maneuver that out so that we don't skip that stitch. And of course we're going to do the double crochet in every single stitch going in the back loop from this point on all the way to where we're gonna meet the other corner. And by that time you should have exactly 50 stitches on this side as well. So each side of our poncho will have 50 stitches. Okay, now go ahead and complete this. When you've reached the end, come back. I will show you how to connect the 2 sides, and then I will show you how to do row 2, which is going to be a repeat row for a little bit before we change a stitch and do something a little bit different. Okay, but for now, just finish this row and come back when you've completed that. See you guys in a bit. Okay, my lovelies, so I have completed the other side of the poncho here. So I have my 50 stitches on this side here as well. And so what I will do is I will just slip stitch to the chain 2. So on top of the chain 2 that we did at the beginning of this row, I'm going to slip stitch my work there like this to kind of make it all kind of, you know, full or closed up like that. Okay, and then I'm gonna go right into the center part here as well and do a slip stitch like that, so that we can actually complete it and we can start the next row. Now to start the next row, I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to go into that same center and do a double crochet. My chain 2 counts as a double crochet. I'm going to chain 2 and do 2 more double crochets into the same chain 2 space from the previous row, and this is our corner. Okay, so just like that. So I have 2 double crochets here, which is including the chain 2. Then I have 2 double crochets on this side. And now I'm going to do the double crochets. I'm going to continue to do the double crochets, but I'm going to do back loop double crochets for this row until we get to the other corner. And then I will finish it off by doing the same thing, which is the back loop double crochets on the other side to complete the row. But I'll show you what I mean by back loop double crochet. So you see this stitch here, I'm going to work into this stitch here, but I'm gonna go into the back loop. So instead of going in like this, which is picking both loops, I'm going to go in and pick up the back loop like this, and then I'll complete my double crochet. And then into the next stitch, which is this one here, I'm going to go in the back loop as well and complete a double crochet, and into the next stitch and complete a double crochet. And I'm just going to do these all around until I get to this corner here. So my final, I apologize for that noise, is my water heater. It makes this noise sometimes, but I hope it's not too annoying for you guys. But I'm gonna finish my final half double crochet right here. Oh, sorry, back loop double crochet right here. Then I'm gonna go into the center and do 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets into the same stitch. And then I'm gonna go ahead and do a back loop double crochet here, back loop double crochet, and then continue all the way to this corner here. So I will have you guys do the same, go all around until you get back to the final stitch here. When you've done the last stitch, come back. I will show you how to connect and how to start the third row, which is our repeat row. This is our repeat row, but the third row, of course, is a repeat row as well. Okay, see you guys in a bit. Okay, my lovely, so I have gone ahead and completed this second row. And as you can see, so I did my back loop double crochets on each side here. I created a corner here, and of course now I'm at this other end where I'm gonna go ahead and finish this. There's a stitch that I'm gonna go into right here that is not very visible, but you do need to go into this stitch because otherwise you will have less stitches on one side. So I finished that like that. Then I go into the top of the chain 2 from the first stitch we created and do a slip stitch, and then do a slip stitch in the middle. Okay, so that is how my second row looks like, and we're going to continue to do this for 2 more rows to make it 4 before we change the stitch. Now again, because it is a poncho, this is one corner, this is one corner. If we put it together like this, this is how our poncho is going to look. And the fact that you make sure there's exactly the same stitches, number of stitches on each side, makes it so that it's very nice and straight like this, and it's not going to have the corner going one way like this, like most times it would do if you don't have enough stitches on each of the sides that are matching up. Okay, all right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and continue to do 2 more rows here of this exact same thing that we did in row 2. And when I have done those 2 rows, I will come back so I can show you guys how to do the puff stitches, because we do have puff stitches that we do as well. Okay, so go ahead and do the remaining 2 rows and then come back when you have 4 rows all together. See you guys in a bit. Okay, my lovelies, so I have gone ahead and completed 4 rows of my poncho here. And as you can see, that's how it looks like. This is the reliefs of what comes out when you do your back loop double crochet. It looks like that. And as you can see on the other side, it looks a little bit different. So I prefer the look on this side more than I do on this side. But the case of this poncho is so that you can also wear it the other way around. So it's up to you. You can choose to wear it with this showing or with this side showing. Okay. So I just completed here a slip stitch in this stitch and then in the middle. And now I'm going to show you how to do the puff stitches, okay? So again, we're just going to do the middle as per usual. We do chain of 2, then we do a double crochet, which is to create our corner here, chain 2, and then 2 more double crochets into the chain 2 spot from the previous row. So this is the first thing we do. And then for the next 4 stitches, we're going to do regular double crochet. We're not going in the back loop. We're just going to go into this stitch here and do a regular double crochet. And into the next, we do a double crochet. So that's 2. And into the next, we do a double crochet. That's 3. And into the next, we do a double crochet, which is 4. So we do 4 double crochets after the middle. We do 4 double crochets. And then from here, we're going to go into the next stitch right here, and we're going to do our puff stitch, okay? So the next stitch, we're going to do a puff stitch. And the way we do that is I yarn over, I go into that stitch, I bring my loop back like this. I will have 3 loops on the hook. I yarn over, I go into the same stitch, I bring the hook back. I have 5 loops on the hook like that, see? Then I go one more time and I repeat that. And I will end up with 7 loops on the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I will yarn over and go through all 7 loops like that. I will chain 1 to lock it in. Okay, so that's a puff stitch right here. Now this is kind of like a small puff. If you want to make your puffs bigger, you will just continue to loop it in until it's fat enough that when you do make a puff stitch, it's fat. But I want to make it just so it's like that. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to skip this stitch here, and in the next one right here, I'm going to do my puff stitch. So I'm just going to go into it and repeat what I did in that first puff stitch, like that. You will always end up with 7 loops on the hook before you yarn and go through, and then chain 1 to lock it in. And that's my second puff stitch. Then I'm going to skip this stitch, and in the next stitch I will repeat my puff. So again, yarn over, go into the loop, yarn over, go into the loop, yarn over, go into the loop, and then your 4th yarn over, you go through all 7 loops on the hook, chain 1 to lock it in, and it looks like that. Okay, and then we repeat that. We skip a stitch, we go into the next stitch, and we do a puff stitch. Okay, we lock it in by doing a chain 1, we skip a stitch, we go into the next stitch and create our puff stitch, just like that. Chain 1, we lock it in. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do all the way until we have 4 stitches to go before the middle. So we're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches. So our last puff stitch is going to be here or here, depending on how we skip through. So I'm gonna have you guys work on that. When you have 4 stitches to go, come back to the video and I will show you guys how to do the final 4 stitches, how to do the middle, and how to start the other side. And then we'll do this first row of the puff stitches, and we will do a second one before we go back and do our stitches for the back loop double crochet. Okay, but for now I will meet you when you have 4 stitches left on this side here. Okay, my lovelies, so as you can see here, I have done my puff stitches, the row of the puff stitches here. The row is not completed yet, the one side is. And now, as I said, I have 4 stitches here to go. So I'm going to show you how to do these 4 stitches, because as you see, we started this row by doing 4 double crochets that are just regular 4 double crochets before we started a puff stitch. And so that's exactly what we're going to finish this side with. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm just going to go right into that next stitch and do a double crochet, and then into the next stitch and do a double crochet, and into the next stitch and do a double crochet. Okay, so that's 3 and then 4. This is my final double crochet before I go into the center. And just so to make some corrections here, if you did 4 double crochets here and then you did your puff stitches and you end up with 5 here, don't worry about it. Just have 5 double crochets that you go with, as long as you start this side with 5 double crochets as well. So for example, if I was to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 double crochets here, just because of the counting, it ended up being 5 instead of 4. Then when I start this side, I'll make sure I have 5. And if I go all the way here and instead of having 4, I have 5, I just do the 5. Okay, so we can work around our, I guess, miscalculation of stitches like that. Now that I have done these 4, I'm going to go right into the middle here and do my corner. So 2 double crochets, like so, chain 2, and then 2 double crochets into the same stitch, just 1 and 2, so that way we continue to keep our corner here. And then I'm going to do 4 double crochets, so I'm going to go right with this stitch right after my center and do 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so that is my 4 double crochets to match this side here. And then in the next stitch I'm going to start with a puff stitch. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do my puff stitch here, just like we did on the other side. Chain, and then chain 1 to lock it in. Skip this stitch. In the next stitch do your puff stitch, and you're just going to do these all the way until we get to the other side. Okay, so we're going to do this until we have 4 more double crochets left here. If you have 5, come back and just we will work with the 5. Okay, but do that when you have completed all these puff stitches to this corner. Come back, I will show you how to finish the double crochet stitches, how to connect, and then how to start the next row of puff stitches. And then I will show you how to do the other row as well, because that's the row where we go back to doing the double crochets. Okay, but for now, continue doing your puff stitches until you get to this corner here. Okay, my lovelies, so I have gone ahead and completed the puff stitches on this side here as well. So as you can see, that is how it looks like. And as you can see, I have 4 stitches left to work with here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so I'm going to just go straight into those and do my regular double crochets. And as I said, if for some reason you would have ended up with 5 here, then I would have shown you how to do a reduction stitch. And the reduction stitch would be so that you end up with 4 stitches either way, and that this side doesn't have 5 stitches while you have 4 on this side. But let's say you had 3 less, then you would have also had to increase. So I'll just quickly show you how to do that actually. So let's say for some reason I had 5 stitches to go here. So what we would do then is I would have gone in like this and do a double crochet. Okay, well, this is the first one here. I forgot to remove the last one. So let's go back to this. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches to go. Then I will just go into the second one and do a regular double crochet. And then to put 2 together so that I will end up with 4 instead of 5, I will just go into this like this and then into the next. So I will end up with 4 loops like this. I will go into the first 3 loops and then finish it off. So that way this becomes 1 stitch, this becomes 1 stitch, and then I would do the next 2 to make it 4, and then that is how I would go from 5 stitches to 4 stitches. But let's say I had 3 and I needed to increase it to 5 or to 4, then I would just do a normal double crochet here. And in the next stitch, I would do 2 double crochets in the same stitch, or it could either be here or at the end. And I would actually prefer I would have done it at the end. So then I would have gone in like this, and then in my final one, I would end up doing 2 double crochets to make it 5. But in this case, our math calculation is good. We don't have to worry about that. So after doing my 4 double crochets here, I will just go ahead and slip stitch on top of that first stitch, and then I'll slip stitch in the middle. Okay, so the other very important thing that you will need to do here is count your puff stitches on each side. It's very important because if you have less on one side, your work will start to be crooked. Okay, so I counted my stitches. On this side I have 28, and on this side I have 28. So in that case I'm good. If for some reason you have 23 excuse me, if for some reason you have 23 on one side and 24 on the other side, then you would have to make it so that you do another one and then you do the increases that I was talking about on here to continue to increase your stitches. I'm so sorry. I swallowed my saliva wrong and now I sound like I swallowed a piece of bug. Anyway, so that is how you would have worked with that, okay? Excuse me. Hello. So now that everything works fine here for us, we're going to go ahead and start the second row of the puff stitches. So I'm going to do a chain 2, add into the center here. I'm going to do my corner, so which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. Again, I apologize for swallowing my saliva there and then swallowing my saliva wrong. and it's making my throat itchy right now. Anyways, so we do that, and then we go right into the next stitch right here and do a double crochet. And at this point, you just go with however many double crochets you have here. So I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm gonna go from having 4 to 6 because, as you know, we increased by 2 on each side here. And I'm gonna go ahead and do the 6 double crochets. So that's all of it here, and then in this here is my 6. Okay, so I have my 6 double crochets here, and then into the very first space, which is the very next stitch, we're gonna go ahead and do a puff stitch there. Okay, so again, you know how to do a puff stitch. Slow it down from the first one that I showed you so you see how. Okay, and then I do a chain 1 to lock it in. I skip this section here and I go right into the next space and I do my puff stitch just like that. Okay, chain 1 to lock it in. I skip the puff stitch, I go right into the next gap and I do my puff stitch. Okay, just like that, and then we continue this all the way to where we get to the center. Okay, and then where we get to the center, okay, so this is how it should look like, your puff stitches in this section. So you continue to do this all the way here. Your last puff stitch is going to be right after the previous puff stitch here. It's gonna go right here. And then after that, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Your 6 normal double crochets. You do your corner, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. Then you move over to this side, you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 normal double crochets. You go into this gap here to do your puff stitch, and then you continue to repeat what we did on this side all the way here. And your final puff stitch on this side will be in this hole here, and then you're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Your 6 double crochet is gonna be right here, and then you come back. Okay, or at least in fact come back after you have finished your puff stitch here. I will show you how to do the final 6 double crochets here, and that will finish the 2 rows of puff stitch, and then I will show you how to start the first row of the regular double crochet, and then I will explain how this is a repeat pattern for until the poncho is pretty much done. Okay, so but for now, work your puff stitches all the way here until you get back to this corner. When you get back here, come back to the video and I will show you how to finish it off and how to start the next row. Okay, see you guys in a bit. Okay, my lovelies, so as you can see here, I have obviously gone around and completed my second row of the puff stitches for the poncho. And now I have stitches here to do. Now, as you remember, we did 6 double crochets here. And now we need to have 6 double crochets here. If you look at it, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So which is obviously less than what I need. But if you count the stitches down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's actually 6. It's just this area here is very tight and it's not going to allow me to have too many. So I will show you how you go around about that. Okay, so we're going to go into this stitch here and do a double crochet. We're going to do a double crochet right here. We're going to go do a double crochet right here. In this next one here, we're going to do 2 double crochets in the same stitch. Okay, bear with me. Oh, sorry, in that one we do 1, and then we have one final one here where we will do 2 double crochets, and that is to make 6. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We do 1 more into that same stitch to make it 6. The main thing here is to make sure if you had 6 here that you will have 6 here, and if you had 6 here you will have 6 here, or if you had 5 here, make sure you have 5 here. Just make sure you are lining up those stitches so that there's not a time where you have 6 here and 5 here, or 4 here, 5 here, and whatever the case is. Okay, now that I can count 6 stitches here, it's a workaround. I'm just gonna go right into that stitch and do my double slip stitch, then go into the middle and do my slip stitch. Okay, so this concludes this row, and this is our row 6 of the poncho. Now I'm going to show you how to do the first row of the double crochet, because we're going to be alternating 4 rows of the double crochet, 2 rows of the puff stitches, 4 rows of double crochet, 2 rows of puff stitches. But because we just completed a row of the puff stitches here, we're not going to work into the back loop yet. We're going to do a full row of double crochet that is just regular double crochet, and then the second, third, and fourth is going to be where we go through the back loop. Okay, so I will show you what that looks like. Do a chain 2 and then do a double crochet. So this is where we're creating our corner. Chain 2 and then do the 2 double crochets, and this is for us to have our corner here. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing we've been doing. Now I'm going to move on and go ahead and start with doing a double crochet right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. As you see, we always increase by 2. This row we had 6, now we have 8 here. And then we move on to doing a double crochet in the gap where otherwise we would have done a puff stitch. We just do a double crochet. And then on top of the puff stitch right here, we're going to do a double crochet. Okay. And then in the gap, we do a double crochet. On top of the puff stitch, a double crochet, which is kind of what we did with a chain 1 to lock it in. We use that stitch to do a double crochet. Then in the gap, we do a double crochet. Then on top of the puff stitch, we do a double crochet. So this is how we're going to continue to do our first row of double crochet all around until we come back to here. And of course, don't forget to do your corner here by doing 2 double crochets in the middle, chain 2 double crochets, and then you pick up and continue. So I'm going to have you guys repeat what we just did here all around until you come back here. When you get back here, I will show you how to start the next row, which is just a row of double crochet but in the back loop. And then I will have you guys repeat your work until you have the length that you're looking for. But let's finish this row together, and then I will help you start the next row before I let you guys go ahead and do the rest of the poncho. Okay, I will see you guys in a bit. Okay, my lovelies, so I have gone ahead and completed a row of double crochet, normal double crochet around, just like I showed you how to do it on top of these puff stitches here. So I'm gonna go ahead and obviously slip stitch on top of this stitch here and then into the middle, and this is going to complete the first row of the double crochet out of the 4 pack that we're going to be doing here. Okay, and as you see, it was just going through the regular double crochet, and then of course we're going to start the next row by just doing our chain 2, completing a double crochet in the middle, chain 2, and then completing 2 more double crochets in the middle to create our corner, just as per usual. That doesn't change at all throughout the project. And as you see, the chain 2, the first chain 2 counts as a double crochet. And now this is where we repeat what we did in the second row here. So remember, we did a normal double crochet and then into the chain, and then into the second row is where we started to work into the back loop of the double crochet. So we're gonna go into the back loop and do a back loop double crochet, and then into the next we go ahead and do a back loop double crochet, and then we just continue this all until we get to the each corner. In the corner, we're gonna go into the middle and do 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets, and then pick up on this side and do the same thing. That's gonna make it a row 2, which is what we started here. And then when we finish row 2, we do row 3 the same exact way. We do for row 4 exact same way, and then we go back and do the puff stitches just like we did here. Okay, so in other words, your row 1 to 4 and then 5 to 6 is repeat, and end the 7th, because this is something that we haven't done yet. So all these rows that we have done here is going to be your how you repeat. Okay, and you do that and you continue to repeat it in that order until you reach the length of the poncho that you're looking for. So as you can see, it looks nice and straight, and this is because you're keeping your stitches very even, you're not having more stitches on one side than the other. And it's also very important that every time you start the first row of the puff stitches, that you make sure you count how many they are for the first row that you do, that they match on this side. The second one is not that important to count anymore, because if you have even on this side and this side, that's the first is gonna follow, the second row is gonna follow puff stitches. But it's very important that you make sure you have the same number of puff stitches on this side and this side every time you start a new row of the puff stitches. Okay, now we're gonna talk about colors a little bit. So I'm gonna alternate this. I'm gonna do the four rows of the double crochet that will look like this here. Then I'm gonna do 2 more rows of the puff stitch. I'm gonna go ahead and do 4 more rows of the double crochet. Then I'm going to do another 2 rows of the puff stitch, and then I'm going to change the color. So when I start my next row after that of the double crochet stitches, it's going to be with the orange, and I'm going to repeat that as many times as I did that. And then I'm going to finish it off at the bottom with the yellow. I don't know exactly if I'll do the exact same number of rows per color. It will depend after I finish the rows in the red and the rows in the orange. By the time I get to the yellow, is it going to be too big? If it's too big, I just do a few rows in the yellow. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and work on my poncho. You're going to do the same for yours. And when you have the length that you're looking for your poncho, please come back. I will do the same and we will look at how it looks together. Okay, I will see you guys in a bit. Okay, my lovelies, so I have gone ahead and worked on my poncho here. I think I'm just about to finish the number of rows that I want for the poncho altogether. It is going to be a medium large, as I said at the beginning of the video, but as you can see here, this is how I completed the red. So this is where we started, and here, so I ended up doing that amount of red, and then I moved it to the yellow. I'm sorry, my table is a little bit too small. I may actually put this at a different time, put it on a flat bed so I can show you guys how it looks. But then I moved on to doing the orange color, and I did the exact same number of rows as I did for the first one. And then so far I'm in the yellow part of the poncho, and as you can see, this is why I stopped with just 4 rows of the double crochets here and then 2 rows of the puff stitch, and I've paused here for now. And I think I will end up stopping here because it's now long enough for what I'm looking for myself. And I think I will stop here, because if I continue to do the amount of rows that I have for the orange, it's just going to be way too long. But I think just having the highlight of doing it in this yellow color in a short amount of rows compared to the rest of it, I think it looks nice like this. So I think I'm gonna leave it here. So with that said, I'm just gonna go ahead and disconnect the yarn here. So as you can see, I did the slip stitches to the center, and now that the slip stitches are in the center, I'm just gonna cut my yarn here, and I'm gonna go ahead and slip stitch and then weave in my ends at a different time. Okay, so I'm gonna just do this and then pull it. So this is done here. And now I'm gonna weave in this here. There are places where I change the color if I need to weave those in, like here for example, I changed the color here and I did not weave in the color, the yarn, and the same thing here. So I'm gonna do all of those, and I pretty much finished my project here. There's also the string where we started the poncho here, where the loop is hanging still, so I will weave that in as well. But yeah, I think this is pretty much how long I want it, and I think I have finished it. But yeah, the table is too small. I'm gonna definitely try to, maybe tomorrow I'm gonna try to put it on a flat bed and have a nice view of it from the top so you guys can see it properly, because right now here obviously the recording table is too small. But yeah, I'm gonna end the video here, and if I do I show you guys in a different angle tomorrow, I'll just have it as part of the intro or add it to the intro of the video. But yeah, we're gonna end it here. Thank you so much. As you can see, this is beautiful. Just the puff stitches kind of complement this pattern a lot, and the fact that we do the back loop make it so that these lines are nice and wavy like that, and I really like that. So let me know what you think about it. Go to the comment section and let me know what you think about this poncho. But we're gonna stop it here. Please go ahead and subscribe and like and comment and share, and yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.